like Penny said, I've been with EDUCAUSE for a good long time now. And about the first 10 or 11 years of my career here, I ran our analytics and benchmarking department. I learned a lot about the technologies involved in higher education and the shifting markets. And one of my favorite bits of data to collect was around market share data and what types of solutions the membership was using. And I've been to our events over the years and uh, just over time have always been really aware of this little bit of tension that exists in our community between the institutions and the solution providers. And so when the position opened up, and so over time, I've always been collecting ideas for like, oh, wouldn't it be better if this? Wouldn't it be better if that? And so when the position opened up to run corporate engagement, I jumped at the opportunity. They were looking for somebody to reimagine corporate engagement for EDUCAUSE, because at the same time the role opened up, they were finalizing a strategic plan and a new vision to inspire the transformation of higher education. And one of the major strategic pillars in that strategic plan was around influencing the evolution of the higher ed tech market to better serve institutions and learners. And so they knew that the way corporate engagement was set up at EDUCAUSE needed to be reconsidered in order to support that strategic pillar. So for the last 3 years or so, we've been on a journey of building new and innovative ways to bring the community together and to change the culture. Because at that time when I was hired, I like to joke that our culture was more of like a middle school dance where there's institutions on one side and solution providers on the other side, and no one really wants to talk to each other, but you kind of have to in order to make some magic happen. So that's where my heart's at, is I really want to take everything I know from our member community and think about how best to bring to you what you need to know about the solutions that are available and help to create better business practices so that it supports the work of the higher education community. The first thing that I did in this role was establish a corporate engagement advisory committee. So there's a link here to show you who's currently on the committee. This slide might be a little bit old, but it gives you an idea of it's half representatives from the higher education community and half representatives from our partner companies. And the group is so highly engaged. We meet around 6 times a year. There's always lots of good discussion, almost full attendance at every meeting. Sometimes when someone misses a meeting, I offer to do like a half-hour follow-up and say, "Oh, let's talk about the things that you missed," and we record all of the meetings. And so people were coming to the follow-up meetings having already watched the recording and asking me questions about how best to engage on a certain topic that was discussed. And so this is my go-to group for making decisions about how best to serve the community by bringing together the corporate community and the institutional member community. Um, the next thing we did was to establish a new corporate engagement program. And so in many years ago, we used to have like platinum partner, EDUCAUSE platinum partner, EDUCAUSE silver partner, whatever. And that sort of meant that a company had like spent a certain dollar amount with us. But there was no real like benefit to the company or meaning to the community about what that relationship was. And so this new partnership program enables us to find companies in the solution provider community that are mission aligned with higher education. They have, or at least have, really strong higher education verticals. They're very good thought leaders. They're interested in partnering with us on creating value for the community. Our first year with establishing this program, we had 11 partners and we interviewed 15 companies to determine who were going to be good partners. And sometimes companies would come on the call and they would be like, okay, cool. So how many email addresses are we going to get out of this relationship? And we would just sort of like back away slowly because that just didn't feel like a good fit for us. Now we have 21 partner companies. They're all people and organizations that have been doing good work in our community that my team feels comfortable working with. And if you click on this link, uh, let's see, is that going to open? Yeah. So you can view our partners and read a little bit about the things that they're committed to working on within our community. Um, each one of these partners we work on special projects with. The most notable at this point is AWS helped us with an AI readiness assessment. We're doing a community of practice with Genzabar this year around efficient business models in higher education. And so that's going to run for about a year. And just the learning that happens with bringing those folks together is going to produce some interesting results around how to lead an efficient partnered institution. Our partner Ellucian is focused on supporting our young professionals program, and so we're doing some neat programming with them at the annual conference. So each partner kind of gets a little bit of a different way to engage with EDUCAUSE. We try to identify, the community has many, many, many needs. And so we try to keep, kind of a running understanding of what the community needs and then align the partners with who would be who would be able to help with that problem the best. Uh, and also part of this program is just different ways of engaging with our conferences. So instead of just being able to buy a session at the conference, you have to engage at a higher level and be more involved in the conference to be able to present at the conference. And I mean, this takes a little bit of a time to kind of change the culture, but through working more closely with these companies, we're able to give the community better content and ensure that those sessions at the conference aren't just going to be like sales pitches or, have like content that's not necessarily relevant to our audience. So let me just pause there and see if anybody wants to chime in on anything I've said so far.
Well, I do have something to say, and we might get into this a little bit later, but all those companies, partner companies that you showed, they're bigger in size, and we're a smaller institution. So I'm just curious to pick your brain in terms of how would a smaller organization like the ones that are probably on this call now or on the Zoom now, um, how how should we engage your team in terms of getting the best bang for our buck and to be able to bring something back to our organizations?
So are you saying that?
So thinking of FTEs, for me, we're under 1,000. Um, so I know some our folks are under 5,000 FTE. So in some cases, some of these bigger packages that some of these sponsors provide, we might not necessarily be able to meet the threshold. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts in regards to the best ways we can engage with some of the partners that EDUCAUSE is working with.
If I understand Don correctly, as a smaller institution, sometimes it's hard to get the attention of
Yes,
these
absolutely.
bigger organizations. And like when I think about the partner summit and some of the like case studies you all presented were like with AWS with, I think, was it Arizona State or
Yeah.
big, really big institutions. And so, it seems like it's a lot harder as smaller institutions to get the attention of some of these bigger or corporations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I have two thoughts on that. One is if there are other like pools of solution providers that because these are big companies you tend to not work with, I would want to learn more about the types of companies that do suit your needs a little bit better because as we go into 2026, we are establishing a different layer of partnership that serves that kind of like smaller company
Oh,
size.
okay.
Um, but also we would want the other thing about that of our relationships with these bigger companies is that if we together can have a conversation around the challenges you have in working with them, we can with big companies in general, really, is we can start my department can start to speak on your behalf and start to think about programming and way better ways so, another element I'll get to later is around training the solution provider community on how best to work with higher education. And so, if we can develop educational programming on the challenges of small colleges, they will be able, we'll be able to kind of like attempt to help them establish business practices that better support you.
Gotcha.
Hi, this is
Yeah.
Walter Moore at College. One thing that small colleges have done in other organizations that makes up for our smaller buying power is consortium buys. We do that through independent colleges and universities of Florida, for example. I'm not aware, and it may simply be my ignorance, my lack of engagement with this group, of EDUCAUSE as a whole doing that. That would be a particular area of interest to us because we don't have a lot of leverage with an AWS or a Microsoft, but
Right.
it helps us that we're buying through our state organizations.
Um, I will address that in my last slide, actually.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
excellent. Something to look forward to.
Did he beat you to the punch?
Yeah, a little bit.
A
It's
little
fine.
bit. Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
you did mention that if we did have companies that are smaller, mid-sized companies that may make sense, do they need to be a certain size if we wanted to bring them to you? And what would the process be for that?
No, I mean, I would just okay, so the way corporate sponsorships have traditionally worked with EDUCAUSE, and I'm working very hard to change this, is we have, I mean, it's no surprise, what a third of EDUCAUSE's revenue comes from the corporate community, and that supports all of the great work and programming that we do for the benefit of the community. And so, in order to raise those funds, when they established focus on raising funds from the corporate community, it was viewed more as a marketing opportunity. So we will email a list of hundreds of companies and say, who wants to do a webinar? And if anybody wants to give us a check to do a webinar, we'll take it. What I am trying to do is flip that and understand more about the companies that the community wants to engage with and prospect them to ask them to say, hey, the EDUCAUSE community wants to learn so much more about you. We have all these ways for you to be involved. We'd love to have you come in and do X, Y, and Z with us. We think it could provide a lot of mutual value and kind of have the conversation in that way. And so at this point, it would be lovely to have a list of like if there's like community college preferred provider list that you have in your mind, I can align that with who typically engages with EDUCAUSE, and if they're not already engaged, we're happy to kind of have this conversation with them around, hey, you guys do a lot of business in higher education, and we'd love to get you more involved in our membership community.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the smaller mid-sized companies. I think a lot of them, the questions that they'll ask is around price point. Is there a certain sponsorship package that they would be responsible for, or is there a dollar amount that they would be responsible, per year for providing to EDUCAUSE? I think those would be the questions that would come out.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, everybody has a marketing budget and we're working to, I mean, at this point we have like a portfolio with so these partnerships are bigger, like year-long engagement strategies, but there's lots of other ways for companies to be involved that aren't at like a super high price point.
Okay.
And as we learn more about like the average marketing budget for a mid-sized company, we can identify ways to get them engaged in that more year-long strategy.
Absolutely. And yes, College Vine does need to be on the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that company name, so I think they do something with us already.
They are, I hope they do. If you listen to just about any higher ed podcast, I swear they are like one of the sponsors,
Yeah.
or they get mentioned. So they do AI, agentic AI, and we've just launched our second agent with them,
Oh, okay.
and I think they're adding, they're higher ed exclusive, and I think they're adding 20 to 30 new customers a month.
Wow.
So, and they're already over, I think, 200
Yeah.
higher ed customers.
Yeah.
That's
So,
great. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll look into them.
yeah.
I mean, another thing that we've been able to be creative with is just value exchange partnerships. There's some organizations that would have been a vendor of EDUCAUSE. And so instead of us giving you a pile of money and you giving us a pile of money, let's just call it even. And, like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you have a service that is going to be useful to our community or useful to our organization, like we're very creative in how we develop these relationships.
Piles of money is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, we do need that.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Sorry, I know we went off course. I know you have a bunch more slides. Sorry.
totally fine. And I'm sorry, I don't want to suck up your whole meeting. I was
No,
only
no,
given
no, no.
half an hour. Okay. So moving on, we also have this higher ed guide for the corporate community, and this is an online educational program that is basically like higher ed 101. So this is a really useful a couple of sessions to attend if I think most of the people that come to this are like new sales staff or sales staff that are not um, that are new to higher education. Sometimes we get people who are in higher education, but they're like coming from the corporate side and they want to learn more about higher ed. But it's like, what's the difference between a public and a private school? Why is a small college, different than an R1? How does procurement work? Why does it take 10 months to land a deal? So it's been really super helpful and eye-opening. And the courses end up having maybe 20 to 40 attendees, so it's a little intimate, and they get access to these higher education faculty members that then end up being really good contacts for them moving forward. So that's our effort to help, you know, provide the community with solution provider representatives who speak your language and are just more knowledgeable about the things that you're up against.
You'll never guess who is teaching that this fall for the first time.
You are?
Yeah, I'm just a
That's
little
awesome.
nervous.
All right.
I don't know much about the public side, right? I've only worked in private. But I sat in on the class this last time with Brett Ingerman teaching it. And of course, he's so
Yeah.
great. Did I get the name right?
Yeah.
Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna do great, Penny.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you so much.
I hope y'all keep your fingers crossed for me.
Yeah.
And it's really important. This ties, so this course existed before the partnership program existed, but because we, partnership means something very specific to us now. And that means we have to come as equal players in this relationship and provide value to one another. And in order for people to be good partners to us, they need to be able to speak our language. And so, as part of these big packages that the companies engage with, we give them 10 or 15 free registrations to this course for their staff. And when we were starting these conversations with companies, they'd be like, they're coming from like a time where they could buy 15 things from us and, opt in and out or whatever. And so our initial conversations with them, they're trying to negotiate out of certain things they don't think they're going to use. And this was like top of the list. And we would be like, yes, no, but we need you to do this to be a good partner. So
Yeah.
we're not going to give you an extra webinar because you don't want to use these passes because we want you to use these passes.
Yep.
And it's working really well, and they're reporting back that it's been really valuable for them. The next thing that has changed is our annual conference. We are calling it is it in here? EDUCAUSE Commons, which is, traditionally thought of as our exhibit hall. We have organized it into what we call neighborhoods based on the key communities in our membership. So there's a grouping of cybersecurity companies, a grouping of enterprise technology companies, and a grouping of teaching and learning companies. We have the companies select space based on whatever their technology aligns with. And then it's enabled us to create. So the ultimate goal here is we really want to create spaces for our communities to congregate around the job roles that they have. So at the annual conference, if you've been there, there's like not really an easy way to meet up with like your teaching and learning people or, your other like database administrators or whoever your group is. And so by having these spaces created that are like hangout spaces and little theaters, we're working really hard this year to create engagement, fun activities in these little spaces that could be thought of as, the place to meet up with the people that you have similar job roles as.
But is that where some of the sessions are going to happen? Because I know Dawn and Jeff and I our session got accepted and we're in the
Oh,
Commons.
you are? Okay.
Yes.
So was it like a meetup session?
I don't think so.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We might have to look at that email again, but I don't think so.
It might be, is it in EDUCAUSE Central? It might be in EDUCAUSE Central is being designed in a similar way.
The email came from Sarah Reynolds, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's a
If you
breakout
have a
session.
session in here, I will tell you, we're working hard also to help like create the little session areas to be way
Okay.
more sound proof and
Okay.
have better audio, because that's always a challenge.
Yeah, it says it's a breakout session in the EDUCAUSE Commons neighborhood spaces.
Oh, okay. So TBA.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, Another thing we're focusing on, and then I'll get to my ultimate point here, is growing our emerging tech program. So I, part of influencing the evolution of the technology market means also nurturing new ideas and trying to make sure that new companies can be successful in our market. So we have, actually, if I go back to this layout, you'll see there's these little booths in here um, where oh, I'm so sorry, not to make you nauseous. They're like little kiosks. If you've been to the conference a long time ago, it used to be called Startup Alley. But we have opportunities for new, smaller companies to just have a little bit of space on the show floor, and they get what we've added in addition to just the little kiosks is an opportunity to have a mentoring session with higher ed professional to give you feedback on your product or um, maybe your marketing strategy or how best to engage with the higher education community. We also are having a virtual preview day. So before the conference, they're doing little mini demos um, to talk about their technologies so that anybody coming to the conference can understand more about what's offered. And then you don't have to go through all the booths, but you could just go to the ones that were kind of maybe piqued your interest. And then we're working in partnership with AWS to do some educational programming for these companies throughout the year so that they can learn how to be more successful in the higher ed market. And one of the things they asked us, one of the needs that has emerged from these companies is around procurement and barriers in the procurement process and how to adapt their business practices to better support higher education procurement processes. Okay, last thing is this partner summit that Penny told you about. So, we have a new event that is being held on the pre-conference day of the annual conference. And last year was our first year. We talked about working together in partnership and what that means and how industry and higher education can work better together. It was about 80 people. We invited representatives from our partner companies, a hand-selected group of higher education leaders, so the EDUCAUSE board, our advisory committee representatives. We looked at the most highly engaged community groups and asked the leaders of those community groups to come and represent the needs of their community groups, which is how Penny got involved. And then the rest of the attendees were key representatives from peer associations. So getting everybody in the room together helped us talk about the challenges that our community faces and how we can all share in creating solutions for that. And I mean, EDUCAUSE, we feel that one of our superpowers is in convening, and so we don't necessarily need to be the ones to create the solutions or have the ideas, but just bringing people together. If Nakubo and AWS and I2 run off and create a great thing, and it was because they had a conversation, like that's what's best for the community. That's awesome. So one of the outcomes of the Partners Summit from this year, they requested to have a virtual follow-up around 6 months later. So in May, we got the band back together and did a little virtual meeting and talked about what we should be planning for this next summit. Another outcome of the 2024 summit was an identification of characteristics of good corporate partners. And that serves as the basis of a program that we're going to establish this year called the Corporate Recognition Program. And it will help. So, in this program, companies will be able to apply to be evaluated against these values that higher education holds. And if they meet the higher education standards, EDUCAUSE will call them corporate exemplars. And they'll be able to just demonstrate through that little seal that they align with these criteria that higher ed is looking for in terms of good solution providers. Um, and so anybody in the corporate community can apply, will be able to apply to receive that seal. And then, so the last thing I want to mention about the 2025 summit is that during that virtual follow-up, we were planning for 2025. And what we'd like to do in 2025 is I want to run a design thinking exercise that gets us to a point where we come up with ideas for tangible solutions that can be created to support the community. And 4 topics emerged based on an exercise we ran in the virtual summit. So the design thinking exercises will be around developing something to support educating institutions and industry about how to work better together. Another thing is around all things contracts, procurement, and cost. That was a huge, um, people really were like, we need some solutions in this area. Another one was AI enablement, and then the last one was learning and curriculum development. So my ask for this group is to think ahead about what are your challenges in these areas and what types of solutions would help you solve those challenges in these areas. And so when Penny comes to the event in the fall, she can bring those thoughts forward and any other challenges and things that you want to contribute to the conversation. She's your representative for that.
Okay.
All right, do you guys have follow-up questions? You sure are a quiet group today.
No one here but us chickens.
Hmm.
One other thing I'll note is that I just hired a program manager for partnerships and corporate engagement. Oh, I guess I have, guys, you got to cut me off because I will just talk. Um, so 2 things then. I hired a program manager for partnerships and corporate engagement. She's going to be developing her name's Katie Schuster, and she's going to be developing the corporate recognition program and helping to lead the annual partner summit. And because I have this person on staff now, although those are her 2 like initial responsibilities, we want to build out programming for the corporate community to better serve the higher education community. So if you have ideas for how we can train the corporate community to be better for you, we will use that as input for new things we create for the corporate community. And then the second thing that I will mention is that I talked a lot about corporate partnerships today. But as of, I don't know, March, April, sometime this year, I assumed responsibility for all of EDUCAUSE partnerships. And so it's uh, I will be spending the next year strategizing on how to engage groups like HES and Nukubo and our other partner organizations in a strategic way that helps the community and align the EDUCAUSE portfolio in a complementary way to the other organizations and figure out I don't imagine us ever doing like consortia procurement deals, but how can we align the organizations that do that and bring it to you as a community in like an organized way? And so think of ways that think of organizations, non-corporate organizations that we should be talking to support your work and how EDUCAUSE can complement and convene that work in a way that just makes your lives easier.
That's what we all
So
want.
yeah, that's great. So in terms of a process, if someone were to bring a potential partner into the conversation, how would you want that to look? You know, in terms of should they reach out to you? Should they reach out to Katie? What does that look like?
Have someone reach out to me directly. I mean, I'll put my email in here.
Yeah,
And then depending on, actually a couple things. Yes, I think I typed that correctly. Um, Depending on our familiarity with the company, and your interest in having us engage with them, I might give them a couple of different avenues. So, as an example, and if a new company is engaging with us and I have no other context besides they're just interested in maybe having a booth at the conference, I'll say, thank you very much for your interest. I'm going to direct you to our corporate sales team, and they'll introduce you to how to get started with EDUCAUSE. If you, Don, are like, hey,
he's
college
got some
buying
faith.
is
Right,
amazing. I have this great contact.
Yep.
I really want you to talk to them. I'd probably either set up a meeting with myself or have my associate director, Carolyn Coleman, meet with them directly and talk about their needs and interests, and maybe even also get a little bit of more background from you all on why this particular company is important to your community so that we come to the conversation with that.
gotcha. So context is king.
Context is king. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I've always been it's been an interesting thing, especially being in New York City. Funny enough, I don't know if you guys are doing the EdTech week that's happening over in Columbia University.
Let's talk about that.
Good. Let's talk about. Okay, yeah. So so we'll be there, and it's on our campus. So I know I'll be running into different people, and we have these different relationships. So I'm just always curious about. Hey, I'm always talking about EDUCAUSE, and some people are like, what's this? What's that? So I always want to be able to uh, connect people together if it makes sense. But I just want to make sure I'm connecting them to the right individuals.
Yes. Okay. So, I'm very excited that I have a person on my staff who was willing to pop up there because it's the week before our annual
Yeah,
conference.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Uh,
I was thinking I was like, there's no way they're gonna show up because this is a week before their attention is gonna be in Nashville. They're not really gonna be
right.
thinking about New York.
Well, so the woman I have leading our emerging tech program, um, I have I that event has been on my radar, and I just sort of said, hey, I know it's the week before our conference, but I think it could be really valuable for us to kind of go and learn more about how they support emerging technologies, and maybe even meet some new companies. Because one of the challenges we have in getting emerging companies to participate is we don't have access to, we don't have a marketing database to go out to emerging companies. So we need to do more prospecting and learn about what's new and coming up in the communities. So she's going. Her name's Courtney Board. And I would love to be able to connect her with you if that's okay, and whoever else.
That's absolutely fine. We're actually planning on the Monday. We're
Okay.
planning on doing something here at the school. So we're doing an ed tech event. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so we're we've been trying to figure out because I love the EDUCAUSE conference so much to be able to bring that same energy to New York, just to
Cool.
on a local
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So so that's what we're going to try to attempt to do. But
Awesome.
yeah, so definitely she's welcome to attend.
Oh, I
Uh,
would love that. We
yeah, the
went
doors
to
open.
We've been trying to go to ASU GSV to meet some new companies, and one thing we learned when we were there our first year was so many companies don't even know what EDUCAUSE is.
You're right, exactly. So when I say
Yeah.
it, they're like, does this company exist? What is this? Why haven't I heard about this? So I'm trying to sing the good, bring your praises to these different companies as best
Thank
I
you.
can.
Well, you'll have someone from us there to speak to.
I appreciate it. And Clint, I am getting the link right now. So, all right.
So an idea that may or may not be worthwhile. I am with I'm a chair with HETMA, Higher Ed Tech Managers Alliance.
I can talk about HETMA too.
So to somewhat commandeer an idea that I'm the advisory board chair, and with advisory board, basically I schedule weekly meetings with HETMA sponsors to come in and talk with us about stuff they have coming up, stuff that they're working on, getting our higher ed insight about technology, because it might be a little bit more out of the box than people that are maybe more corporate, more residential, whatever, are using the technology. What about something like that here, where we try to get meetings with sponsors here that are talking about the things that they're doing, because not everyone can make it to EDUCAUSE. Not everyone can make it to a time to get that sort of one-on-one level. People are, far flung off. They're at small universities. They're at places that they may not ever get a rep to come talk to them. Have them talk about something that they are working on, something that they have coming up, some technology that they're doing, because that might let them see that technology when they might not have otherwise been able to see it. It might expose them to something that they've not otherwise been exposed to, allow people to ask questions about a technology that maybe they've been struggling with, but not had a way in an avenue to talk to that manufacturer about the technology that they're doing. I mean, obviously you can spin it to more of a slight EDUCAUSE spin on it, but that's kind of a rough concept of what we've been doing with it with HETMA, but I could definitely see it working here as well. And the manufacturers and stuff usually love that kind of stuff to get that hook in somewhere where they haven't had it before, and to see that end user support kind of final step status talk with people that they're not getting maybe from someone that's doing, they may be a step removed from their marketing people that are out talking and actually talking to the schools about it.
Yes, that's a great idea. It reminds me of the other point I wanted to make about Katie. I plan to start sending Katie to, I think Penny, you attend, there's like a monthly CG leaders meeting. And I
Yep.
would like to have her attend those CG leaders meetings to really get familiar with the needs of all of the community groups, but be able to offer services to support ideas like your idea, Chris. And so if we were able to, you know, over time as she's in that meeting, it'll be like a go-to for leaders like Penny. So if Penny, if this group comes up with, hey, we really want to hear from XYZ company, that would be an opportunity to ask Katie to coordinate something like that. And maybe over time we'll come up with new and different ideas for how to support each community group a little bit differently.